When we talk about intimacy, most men jump straight to the physical. They believe the right line, the right moment, or the right gesture is what unlocks a woman's willingness to connect. But the truth runs deeper than that. A woman cannot step into intimacy unless she first feels emotionally safe. And safety is not built in an instant, it's built gradually, often in subtle ways that men don't pay enough attention to. Think about it for a moment. A woman's psychology is wired to scan for trust, to evaluate whether the space she's in, whether with you or within herself, allows her to let down her guard. Without that sense of security, her body may be present, but her heart will hold back. And when her heart holds back, intimacy becomes mechanical, shallow, and unfulfilling. So what creates that emotional safety? It is not gifts, it is not empty compliments, and it is not manipulation. It is your presence. It's the way you listen when she speaks, not just to respond, but to understand. It's how you validate her emotions without rushing to fix them or dismiss them. It's how you show her that in your company, she doesn't have to perform or pretend. Emotional safety is built when a woman feels she can exist fully in front of you without fear of being judged, abandoned, or used. This is why many men fail. They try to buy intimacy with effort, with persistence, with performance. But intimacy cannot be purchased. It can only be inspired. A woman does not feel safe with a man because he says all the right things. She feels safe when she senses his consistency, when his words align with his actions, when his intentions are steady, and his energy does not shift every time he faces resistance. Now let's add another layer. Emotional safety is not about weakness or softening yourself to please her. In fact, it is the opposite. It is about strength. A man who provides emotional safety is not the man who agrees with everything she says, nor the man who bends to her every demand. It is the man who stands firmly in his own values while giving her the space to feel hers. This balance is rare, but it is magnetic, because when a woman feels that you are unshaken by her emotions, she trusts you. And when she trusts you, she can surrender into deeper intimacy. At its core, emotional safety is the permission you give her to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not a natural state for most women. It's a risk to open herself up, to reveal her fears, her desires, her insecurities. This requires courage. And courage only comes when the environment feels safe. You, as a man, become that environment. You become the space in which she feels protected enough to open. That is the essence of intimacy, not just physical closeness, but the merging of inner worlds. And here's the paradox. The more you chase physical intimacy without building emotional safety, the further away it slips. But when you focus first on safety, on trust, on creating that emotional container, the physical naturally follows. It doesn't need to be forced. It doesn't need to be begged for. It becomes the natural progression of a bond that has depth, honesty, and strength. Think of intimacy like a door. Too many men try to break it down with force, but the door only opens with the right key, and that key is emotional security. Once you hold it, the door opens effortlessly. Without it, you can pound forever and never get through. So the next time you think about asking for intimacy, pause and ask yourself, have I built a foundation where she feels safe enough to say yes? Not just with her body, but with her soul. Because if the answer is no, then no words, no techniques, no strategies will get you what you truly desire. Intimacy is not about access, it is about depth. And the man who understands this doesn't chase it. He creates the space where intimacy can flow toward him naturally. Closing statement. When you make a woman feel emotionally safe, intimacy is no longer something you ask for. It becomes something she offers freely, because she knows she is finally in the presence of a man she can trust. Most men believe intimacy begins with words, asking the right question, saying the perfect thing, or crafting a moment with rehearsed charm. But the truth is, long before words ever matter, your body has already spoken. A woman reads your non-verbal cues far more quickly, far more instinctively, and far more deeply than any sentence you could ever form. You don't ask for intimacy with your mouth first, you ask for it with your presence. Human beings are wired for nonverbal communication. Before language even existed, connection was created through eye contact, tone, touch, and movement. That ancient system of communication is still active today, and women, by nature, are especially attuned to it. They notice the flicker in your eyes, the shift in your posture, the rhythm of your breathing, even the energy you bring into a room. All of it creates a silent conversation, one she cannot help but interpret. This is why so many men fail. They speak words of confidence, but their body leaks insecurity. They say, I want you, but their eyes dart, their shoulders slump, or their touch feels rushed and uncertain. The contradiction is louder than the statement, and women trust the body more than the mouth. Eye contact, for example, is not just about looking, it is about seeing. When you look at her with a steady, grounded gaze, you communicate more than desire. You communicate certainty. You say without words, I am here, fully present with you, unshaken, undistracted. That presence is intoxicating because it tells her she is not just a target, she is an experience you are deeply invested in. But when your eyes flick away nervously, when you cannot hold that gaze, you're not just showing insecurity, you're showing her she cannot rely on you to hold the intensity of intimacy. And touch is even more powerful. Not all touch is created equal. A desperate touch feels heavy, a careless touch feels hollow, but a grounded touch, light, intentional, respectful, creates a surge of safety and excitement at the same time. Through touch, you show her your energy. Are you in control of yourself? Or are you trying to take control of her? She can feel the difference instantly. Your posture tells its own story too. Do you stand as if you are seeking approval? Or do you stand as if you already embody approval within yourself? The way you move toward her communicates either urgency or calm assurance. The first pressures her, the second draws her in. Non-verbal communication also includes something more subtle, your energy. This is not mystical, it's psychological. A woman feels whether you are grounded or restless, whether your presence soothes her or unsettles her. She notices whether you enter a space to seek validation or whether you already carry validation from within. That energy cannot be faked because it is the sum of your internal state. And when you approach intimacy from a place of grounded strength, she feels it in her nervous system. She relaxes. And relaxation is what opens the door to connection. Now, let's be clear. This is not about playing tricks with body language as if you could manipulate her through a formula. It is about alignment. Your non-verbal cues should not be forced. They should be the natural reflection of your inner confidence, your genuine respect for her, and your ability to remain calm under the heat of desire. The goal is not to perform masculinity, but to embody it. Because here's the truth. Women don't just want words of desire. They want to feel desire through your presence. They don't just want you to tell them they're safe. They want to sense safety in the way you hold space. Non-verbal communication bridges that gap. It makes the invisible visible. If you want to ask a woman for intimacy, your words will matter far less than your ability to carry yourself in alignment with strength, respect, and calm. You don't need poetry to make her feel desired. You don't need rehearsed scripts. You need presence. You need eyes that see, a touch that honors, and a posture that radiates certainty. When those elements align, the invitation for intimacy is already accepted long before you speak it aloud. Closing statement: when your body speaks confidence, respect, and presence, a woman doesn't need convincing. She feels the answer before you ever ask. One of the greatest mistakes men make in asking for intimacy is approaching it from a place of neediness rather than confidence. And let's be clear, confidence is not about arrogance, nor is it about dominance. Confidence is about being rooted in yourself. It's the inner knowing that whether the answer is yes or no, your worth remains unchanged. That is the kind of confidence that draws a woman toward intimacy. Neediness, on the other hand, repels. It comes from the belief that intimacy with a woman will complete you, validate you, or prove something about your masculinity. But the moment you approach her with that energy, she feels the weight of expectation on her shoulders. Instead of seeing intimacy as an invitation, she feels it as a burden. She is no longer free to choose because your need has already created pressure. And when a woman feels pressure, she withdraws. Women can sense the difference between confidence and neediness almost instantly. Confidence feels calm, steady, unshaken. Neediness feels rushed, restless, unstable. Confidence says, I want you, but I don't need you to fill my emptiness. Neediness says, if you don't give me intimacy, I am less of a man. And no woman wants to carry the responsibility of defining a man's value. This is where deep psychology comes in. A woman doesn't just respond to what you ask, she responds to the energy behind your request. If your desire is rooted in self-assurance, it feels like a gift. If your desire is rooted in insecurity, it feels like a demand. That distinction is everything. To lead with confidence means you approach intimacy from a place of fullness. You already know who you are. You already carry purpose, direction, and strength in your life. Intimacy with her is not the source of your power. It is the extension of it. And paradoxically, when you stop seeking intimacy to prove yourself, you become the kind of man who naturally attracts it. Think about it this way. A man who is needy approaches a woman with silent desperation. His body leans forward, his energy chases, his words beg even if they sound polite. He is not truly inviting her, he is attempting to extract something from her. But a confident man doesn't chase. He doesn't collapse into her presence. He invites her into his frame, into his calm, into his certainty. That invitation feels safe, it feels exciting, and it feels desirable. There is also a philosophical dimension here. Confidence in intimacy comes from the realization that you are not defined by the outcome of a single moment. Too many men attach their identity to whether a woman says yes or no, but confidence is the refusal to let rejection define you. Rejection simply means misalignment. It does not diminish your value. When you live by that understanding, every invitation you extend carries no desperation. It is an offer, not a plea. And here's something crucial: women don't fall for men who are perfect. They fall for men who are stable. A confident man may stumble over his words. He may not always say the perfect thing, but the steadiness in his energy communicates that he is unshaken. He is not begging for her approval, and that makes her feel free, free to explore, free to say yes, even free to say no, without fearing that she will break him. That freedom is what unlocks intimacy. So when you ask for intimacy, check your energy first. Are you asking because you fear losing her? Are you asking because you want proof that she desires you? Or are you asking from a place of clarity, knowing that her acceptance would be beautiful, but her rejection does not erase your worth? That self-awareness is what separates the needy from the confident. Because ultimately, a confident man doesn't need to convince. He creates an atmosphere where intimacy feels natural, where his presence itself is the invitation. Women don't choose men because they demand intimacy. They choose men because their confidence makes intimacy feel inevitable. Closing statement. Confidence is not about asking in the right way. It's about being the man who doesn't need the answer to define him. And when you embody that, intimacy stops being something you chase and becomes something that comes to you naturally. One of the most destructive mistakes men make when asking for intimacy is treating it like a transaction. They approach it with the mindset of taking, as if intimacy is something to win, to acquire, to conquer. This approach is not only psychologically flawed, it is deeply unattractive, because the moment intimacy becomes a transaction, the essence of it is lost. A woman can feel when you are seeking to take from her rather than share with her, and the energy of taking creates resistance, while the energy of sharing creates connection. At its core, intimacy is not a commodity. It is not something you buy with attention, compliments, or persistence. Intimacy is an experience. It is something created together, not extracted from one person by another. When you frame intimacy as mutual, two people choosing to meet each other in vulnerability, desire, and connection, you elevate it from a physical act to a human experience. And women respond to that elevation with openness. Let's break this down psychologically. When a man treats intimacy as a conquest, he reduces the woman to an object, something to be obtained, whether he realizes it or not. This triggers resistance in her, because no human being wants to feel used. Intimacy without respect becomes performance. She may go along with it, but she won't feel it. And when she doesn't feel it, the very essence of intimacy, its depth, its emotional charge, its life-giving energy disappears. But when a man reframes intimacy as a shared journey, the entire dynamic shifts. It is no longer about him getting something, it is about them creating something. That shift is powerful because it removes pressure and introduces freedom. She feels that her choice matters, that her participation is not demanded but invited. And freedom is what unlocks genuine desire. There is also a spiritual dimension here. Real intimacy is not about two bodies colliding. It is about two souls meeting. It is about the exchange of energy, the merging of emotions, the mutual surrender into a space that cannot be forced. When you enter intimacy with the mindset of taking, you close the door to that depth. But when you enter with the mindset of giving your presence, your focus, your honesty, you create a space where she feels inspired to give too. And when two people are giving, intimacy becomes infinite. Now, here's where philosophy comes in. Think about relationships in general. Every strong relationship, whether romantic or otherwise, thrives on reciprocity. Friendship works when both people invest. Partnerships work when both people contribute. Intimacy is no different. When one takes and the other gives, the bond eventually collapses. But when both choose to share, to contribute, to experience together, the bond strengthens, it becomes sustainable. So when you ask a woman for intimacy, don't frame it as a demand or even a reward. Don't act as though she owes it to you for your time, your attention, or your commitment. She owes you nothing. Intimacy is not a debt to be collected, it is a gift to be shared. The moment you grasp this truth, your approach transforms. You no longer come across as desperate or entitled. You come across as someone who values her, someone who sees intimacy as a sacred exchange rather than a transaction. And here's the irony: when you stop trying to take, you receive more. Because women are not moved by pressure, they are moved by presence. They are not drawn to men who demand, but to men who invite. The more you frame intimacy as something to create together, the more freely it flows. This is why men who understand this never struggle with intimacy. They don't ask with tension in their voice or urgency in their body. They carry a calm assurance because they know they are not asking for something to be taken. They are offering an experience to be shared. That offering is what makes a woman say yes, not just with her body, but with her heart. Closing statement: when you stop treating intimacy as something to take and start seeing it as something to share, you move from conquest to connection, and it is in connection that intimacy truly comes alive. One of the greatest demonstrations of psychological awareness in intimacy is the ability to read energy and respond with sensitivity. Most men enter these moments with an agenda. They are focused on the outcome they want rather than the experience that is unfolding. And when you are blinded by outcome, you miss the signals. You stop listening not just with your ears, but with your whole presence. Yet intimacy is not achieved by pushing harder. It is achieved by paying closer attention. A woman's body and energy are constantly communicating. She may not always say directly what she feels, but her posture, her tone, her breathing, the way she moves closer or further away, these are all signals. And a man who is attuned to them creates trust, while a man who ignores them creates resistance. Intimacy is not about persistence, it is about perception. The more you perceive, the more she feels safe, and safety is the soil in which intimacy grows. Now, sensitivity does not mean weakness, nor does it mean hesitation. Sensitivity is strength. It is the ability to remain deeply present and flexible, to adapt to what is unfolding rather than forcing your own script. Think about it. Anyone can bulldoze through a moment, but it takes a grounded man to slow down when he senses hesitation, to ease up when he feels tension, or to lean in when he notices receptivity. That subtle awareness is what separates the clumsy from the masterful. Psychologically, what this communicates to a woman is profound. It tells her, you see me, you are attuned to me, you are not just using me for your own gratification. That recognition is powerful because intimacy is not just about touch, it's about attunement. It's about showing her that you are fully engaged, not just in what you want, but in what she feels. And when she feels seen and understood without having to spell everything out, her guard naturally falls away. This is why presence is so important. You cannot read someone's energy if your mind is scattered, if you are lost in performance, or if you are drowning in self-consciousness. You have to be still enough inside yourself to notice the subtle. You have to quiet your own noise so you can feel hers. That level of presence communicates power because it shows that you are not ruled by your impulses. You are in control of them. And that control is what allows her to trust you. Philosophically, this ties into a deeper truth about human connection. Every meaningful relationship, whether in love, in friendship, or even in leadership, requires attunement. People follow those who make them feel understood. They trust those who can anticipate their needs. They open up to those who are sensitive to their state. The same is true in intimacy. A man who can read energy and adjust communicates a rare kind of intelligence, one that is far more attractive than words alone could ever be. But let's also be clear, this is not about trying to please her every second, nor about overthinking every move. That is not sensitivity, that is insecurity. Sensitivity means balance. It means knowing when to pause and when to press forward, when to soften and when to deepen. It is the art of calibration, and like any art, it requires practice. And here's the paradox. The more you learn to read her energy, the more you also learn to regulate your own. Because if she senses your anxiety, your desperation, your frustration, she will mirror it. But if she feels your calm, your patience, your grounded presence, she will relax into it. In this way, you are not just reading her energy, you are shaping it. You are creating the environment where intimacy can breathe. So when you think about asking a woman for intimacy, shift your mindset. Stop focusing on what you want in that moment and start tuning into what she feels in that moment. Read her signals. Respond to her energy. Move with sensitivity. This is what makes intimacy not just possible, but meaningful. Because true intimacy is not achieved through force. It is achieved through attunement. Closing statement. The man who masters sensitivity doesn't chase intimacy. He creates it because he makes a woman feel understood without her ever needing to say a word. There comes a point where non-verbal communication, sensitivity, and presence reach their peak, and then the moment calls for words. And this is where many men stumble. They either avoid speaking altogether, hoping she will somehow just know, or they speak in a way that feels manipulative, rehearsed, or insincere. But true intimacy requires honesty, and honesty requires courage. Communicating your desire openly, with respect, is one of the most powerful things you can do. Women are not opposed to directness. In fact, when it is rooted in authenticity, they find it refreshing. What they resist is pressure. What they reject is dishonesty. When your words are merely a cover for your own insecurity, or when they are designed to corner her into compliance, she feels it immediately. But when your words are simple, clear, and respectful, they land with strength. Because respect is not just in your tone, it is in the way you release her from obligation. This is where psychology comes in. Words are never neutral. They carry the weight of your intention. If your intention is to persuade, she feels tension. If your intention is to control, she feels resistance. But if your intention is to express openly and leave her free to choose, she feels trust. And trust, as we've said throughout, is the foundation of intimacy. Honesty is powerful because it removes the games. Too many men try to hint, to manipulate, to disguise their intentions in order to avoid rejection. But what they don't realize is that manipulation itself is rejection. It's a rejection of her freedom to decide. By trying to outsmart her, you rob her of the ability to say yes fully, willingly, and joyfully. And even if you succeed in forcing intimacy, it will always feel hollow. A man rooted in confidence doesn't play these games. He doesn't disguise his desire, nor does he inflate it with unnecessary words. He simply states it, grounded and clear. And paradoxically, this clarity creates attraction, because a woman feels she can trust a man who speaks without disguise. She doesn't have to second guess him. She doesn't have to decode him. She knows exactly where he stands. That kind of clarity is rare, and what is rare is always valuable. But here's the deeper layer. When you speak your desire with honesty, you also communicate something far more important. You reveal that you are not afraid of rejection. Rejection does not break you because your worth is not tied to her response. That energy is liberating for both of you. For her, it means she can say yes without fearing you are needy, and she can say no without fearing she will crush you. For you, it means you remain whole no matter the outcome, and that wholeness is irresistible. Philosophically, we could say this intimacy offered without freedom is not intimacy at all. For intimacy to have depth, both people must choose it fully, and choice only exists in the absence of pressure. When you express your desire openly and respectfully, you give her that choice. You honor her autonomy, you affirm her humanity, and in doing so, you elevate the connection. So, what does this look like in practice? It doesn't require poetic lines or grand declarations. It may be as simple as, I want to be close to you, or I'd love to share this moment with you. Simple, direct, human. Not because simplicity is weak, but because simplicity is strong. It shows you trust yourself enough not to hide behind complexity. And this is the heart of it. Honesty without respect is bluntness, and respect without honesty is avoidance. But honesty with respect, that is power. That is what turns an invitation into intimacy. Closing statement: when you express your desire with honesty and respect, you give her freedom. And it is only in freedom that intimacy becomes real, lasting, and unforgettable.